Thanks very much, Alan, for being on today. There's going to be a short description. You watched the show, so I thank you for that. And there's going to be a short description highlighting what the show's about so the viewers can read it. But I would say that probably the majority of viewers don't. And they'll just kind of turn it on and see. And there are people that will know you. And hopefully you also promote it as well on your own. Okay. But I woke up this morning and I'm big into psychology of things. And I know your wife is also a trained psychologist. And I really believe that a lot of how we and what we do is sort of like below the conscious level, you know? So usually I think about something at night, I go to sleep, and when I wake up first thing in the morning, the first 15 to 20 minutes, I really get inspired for the rest of the day. That's when I do my work. Okay. 15, 20 minutes. And I don't have to work hard. It just comes to me. So let me tell you what I wrote this morning on this little piece of paper here.
Okay.
Thinking about you and the fact that we were going to have this chat this morning, and having done a little bit of research, you know, because I should do some research, right, before a show, things that you told me about yourself, and things that other people that are friends of yours, good friends of yours, have told me about you. So this is what my subconscious told me this morning. Are you ready? And the winner is, no. Entrepreneur, philanthropist, artist, businessman, influencer, before that term was used in the context that it's used today. Everybody wants to be an influencer on TikTok. Everybody wants to be an influencer on Facebook. But I mean influencer from a more classical perspective. Again, entrepreneur, philanthropist, artist, businessman, and influencer. That's what I'd like to talk to you about today, because I think your experiences can add a lot of light, not only for myself, because I'm personally interested in learning your formula for success, and I'll call it success. We have a mutual friend who said on this show, he doesn't even like the term success, but it's not his show, it's mine. So I'm going to use the word success. And he'll be watching, so I say that jokingly. So these are the things that my subconscious mind told me that I should discuss with you today. Now, also to help you with that, I have a grandson. He's 4 months old now. And I'm going to show this to the viewers here. There's a picture of my grandson and the Easter Bunny. This was just recently taken because he's 4 months old. So 2006. They had that done at a mall. They live in northern Jersey, and they had that in a mall. So that goes into the artist, businessman, and ultimately philanthropist mindset. So for those of you who are not aware, you developed what I call, for lack of a better word, a whole franchise around Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. And I'd love to get your viewpoint on how you even thought to develop this business and generate not only lifelong memories for children, right? Because my children, they're adults now. They've saved pictures of their own Easter Bunny, Santa Claus pictures.
Exactly.
Millions of children, I think something like 2-3 million children have been photographed in a concept that you developed back in the 60s. So we could talk here for hours and hours, but I'm sure you've been asked these questions before, so I'm sure you have some pretty good answers. No pressure. How did you start this?
I had a portrait studio in the brand new Cherry Hill Mall in 1961. Mm-hmm. And the developer asked if we would take pictures with Santa Claus as a promotion into the center. Because traditionally, Santa Claus appeared in downtown department stores, which didn't exist in brand new malls, because they were perhaps 300,000-400,000 square feet, as opposed to city block long centers. And so we responded to that opportunity, and we grew the Santa Claus business along with the developer into his additional malls in Pittsburgh at the time, and as he grew, we grew right with them. And we realized that this was a great potential, and then started to solicit and expand the business with other developers. And ultimately, when I retired and sold my business, Cherry Hill Photo Enterprises, to my employees, we were serving about 300 malls in the United States and Canada and in Australia. And it was a great ride. And during that period, our people calculated that annually we have touched approximately 40 million people each Christmas and Easter. And the seasons were 35 days at Christmas and 15 days at Easter. And we did innovate and bring the Easter Bunny into malls because it seemed like a natural additional promotion. And we had a great organization. We had a year-round staff of 60, of which about 20 were in the office, and the balance were spread out through, they were our managers that we retained on a year-round basis, and it was a great ride.
Yeah. And so you were drawn to photography.
Yes.
And that's, today photography, and we were just, chatting prior to actually the filming. Today it's more about technology. Photography is more about technology today, and AI, and changing, the picture and the filters that are available today. And while that's still an art form in a different way, in a technical sense, back when I was growing up, and certainly when you were doing it, it was more of an art form where you really had to be a skilled photographer.
Yes.
Because we didn't have all that automation, And so you went from being, I'll refer to you, it's my word, not yours, an artist from a standpoint of being a photographer, but also everything else that you're describing now, also an accomplished business person. And that's where I came up with that. My subconscious gave me that scope there. My little AI inside of me gave me that scope. But also, I use the word influencer in there also, because to have started the business, that's one thing. To have it at all these various small locations, over hundreds and hundreds of them, that also requires a business savvy and a negotiating savvy, because as this became more popular, there are more financial applications and more need to negotiate what we would call today as a good deal, right? So I find that combination of skills very impressive, because most people sometimes feel that they're locked into a certain mindset. I'm an analytical guy, analytical gal, and so I can't do this. And I don't really believe that. I believe that we have a lot of bandwidth. And one of the reasons I really was interested to have you on the show, because it's one thing for me to talk about that. It's another thing to actually have a guest that's actually experienced that, and not a shot in the dark either, or a lucky toss of the coin, if you would, another way of putting it. But a consistency over decades of building what I would call a franchise, a reputation for doing this. What are your thoughts on that? Do you consider yourself unique in that regards, or is this something that a lot of people have the potential to do?
I think it was based on the fact that I was born into a family that was really not successful. We were poor people. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I wanted to improve at a very early age, that I was not happy with where I was or what my future was. And so therefore, I responded to opportunity. And opportunity was the creation in 1961 of the Cherry Hill Mall, and the encouragement of my wife to open a portrait studio, which was really my interest. Mm-hmm. And so that really was the genesis. That was the start of where everything began. And the portrait studio didn't produce what I needed to support my family and what I needed, but certainly the Santa Claus operation did. So I took advantage of that situation, and I grew with it, and I responded to opportunity. And I guess I was blessed with the ability to know where I was and where I wanted to go, and it just came out of me. I have no idea. Mm-hmm. It was nothing. I have no formal education. I left high school and went to work, so that. But I knew down inside of me that I wanted more than what I had experienced in the past.
A lot of people, when they get out of high school or don't even finish high school, right? So finishing high school or not finishing high school, going to college and so forth, is just also indicative, I think, of a certain time frame, meaning that today many people go to college, but the learning experience for them is comparable to what I would say back in the 50s, 40s, and before was to going to high school and graduating with a high school diploma. Now it seems that, if you don't go to college, it's almost like you didn't graduate from high school.
Exactly.
Yeah. What people learn or what they accomplish afterwards, that's questionable. And so that was another reason why I was interested in your perspective on things. I enjoyed moving into this community here in Harvey Cedars. My wife and I and our children and our friends would vacation here. We vacationed here for many, many, many years. And then we bought a home here, after I retired. And I've told some of my neighbors, many of my neighbors are older than I am. And I said, wow, I really enjoy being here talking to you guys and women. And they said, really, why? I said, because I want to learn. I want to learn stuff. What kind of stuff? I said, all kinds of stuff. Because, younger people come to me. People in their 30s and their 20s, for some reason, come to me, which I'm flattered by. Maybe a little bit because they know me pretty well and they know my work experiences and so forth, and they want to understand how they can get to where they want to get into. Because I too, I would say came from, a family, very small family. I had no siblings. Everyone that I knew in my immediate family, they were laborers. They weren't educated. They came from Europe, and they were farmers. And after World War II, they got out of the war zones that they were literally in, war zones, and they found their way to this country ultimately, and they took on jobs, and they had to support their families and so forth. They didn't go to high school or anything like that. So they learned by their experiences, and many of the decisions that they made were based on the decisions that a farmer would make. So we have a farmer's almanac, right? And people say, wow, you go into that. Don't worry about what the weather is. Don't listen to one of the weather apps. Just read this almanac and they'll tell you what. Watch the animals and they'll tell you. Well, no animals like they were experiencing, but the same instincts that they had about animals many times also translate to humans. My dog was a little apprehensive prior to your coming because he sensed something in me. Okay, and he sensed that Fred is not the way he normally is at this hour, so there's something going on. Now he's sleeping over here because everything is calm, everything is cool. Fred's cool, you're a cool guy, and so there's no reason for him to be on alert. So he's dozing off, he's sleeping on the job basically as my co-host. And so I think that today, people are no different than perhaps you were, and I know that I had goals too, but it's been found that those are the differentiating reasons why some people become whatever success means, successful, but you have to stay focused on what those goals are. Were you that type of a person that stayed focused on what you said earlier about your motivation?
As I said earlier, I think I can express it this way. I knew that I wanted to provide for my family the things that would Fred, it's interesting that you become all of a sudden not able to respond as well as I would like to.
No problem.
But I knew that I wanted better things for myself, for my family. Mm-hmm. And I had a vehicle that provided that. Mm-hmm. And therefore, I was blessed with this opportunity, and I was able to respond to situations that appeared that would help me become successful. And in doing so, and being blessed with that ability, I felt that I had an obligation to respond to my community and to organizations mm-hmm. that I could contribute to, not only in dollars, but with my own abilities. And it really, as I look back over my 94 years, I think I did it.
Yeah, well, and the reason why I'm talking to you, I recognize that you have done it, and I'm not the only one. Many, many people have, and I'm sure they have. And I'm interested to get your perspective because thousands of books have been written on what that formula for success is. Again, I'm going to qualify for the third time. Whatever success means to an individual, it doesn't make any difference. But they have an image of what that means. And you shared, thank you, by the way, for what that means. But then you had the other component that I wanted to get to, and you helped with that, is providing back to giving back to the larger society or your community, whatever the case might be. And it doesn't only mean employing people. You started with a small concept, right? And you had so many people that benefited from that could then help their own families in regards to generating what we need, right? To put clothes on our backs and eat and educate our children. Money is not an end all. It's a means to an end. And sometimes I think today people confuse what money is all about. There's nothing wrong with having physical attachments. The question is, what else do you do with that money? Because I think that having physical attachments sometimes is a motivator to other people also. Wow, I really like that house. I really like that car. And I need to go and figure out a way on how to get the money to get that. Legally, hopefully. But then something also hits them, hopefully, with time and with some wisdom, that they want to show gratitude for being given the opportunity to do that. And that's where that initial goal of making money for themselves and their immediate family and others exponentially adds tremendous value to society in so many different ways. And that's another component of your background that I highlighted here when I said philanthropist. A philanthropist, in my mind, is not someone who donates $5, okay? But I doubt seriously, people here in this neighborhood, they know who you are. I think they know who you are. Sometimes it may confuse you with another Alan in the neighborhood, but that's okay. After the show, they'll understand who the Alan is that I'm referring to. But that's also textbook. And what I mean textbook is the way success continues. There's no necessarily mathematical formula to prove this, but it's about having goals, establishing those goals, accomplishing those goals, and then being grateful in a broader sense. And that gratefulness is through public service or presiding over organizations that can add value, or donating money to those organizations also. And usually what I find is that people that are grateful for their success do all of those things. Try to lead good not-for-profit organizations, or be a trustee or a president of those organizations, and also contribute money. And many times people aren't even aware of all the things they do, because part of what they recognize is, I'm not doing this for recognition. I'm doing it because I feel that I really want to. And in Googling you and talking to you, most people that have done that don't showcase those things. And the reason I'm even mentioning these things is, on the show, is I think that people need to be more aware that it's not one thing or the other thing. You can do all of these things. You can be a successful business person. You can have a nice home or multiple homes, and you can still add so much value to society. And if you have the money and you have the gratitude and you put those two things together, you can really have an impact. Having been placed on this planet with countless billions of other people since the beginning of mankind. And that's the reason why I wanted to have you on the show. So that I could, in some small measure, present the fact that this is not just stuff you can read in a book, but this can actually happen in real life. Does that?
Actually, it did happen.
Yes. Yes.
Just that way. Remember in the 50 days that Cherry Hill Photo operated, it gave me a great deal of time to do other things in the balance of the year. For 50 days, it was night and day, and time meant nothing. But after that season, it came back to a very normal time with a lot of free time, and fortunately with sufficient earnings to accomplish the other things that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that it wasn't enough to just give money, but tried to be part of the organizations. And then somehow there was recognition of my abilities because I was solicited to become involved in management and supervision of a host of organizations. Mm-hmm. And that gave me a great feeling of accomplishment and pleasure, as well as meeting the goal of providing for my family and their futures.
Yeah, I think that that goal that you mentioned a few times, I think that was probably realized pretty early in your career.
Yes.
And the fact that something, in this age that we live in, where it's all about, feeds, not to get off or to plug another show, but this coming weekend I'm going to have Ocean County Library. I interviewed a couple key players from that organization, and we were talking about reading, and I made the comment about books, whether they're in hard copy, soft copy, or whether people read books even on their phones. That's very different from reading snippets of information, headlines on TikTok or something like that. It gives you time to contemplate something that an author wrote. We skim through things too quickly. We don't contemplate things enough. We're all about, quick. And, the value add is that when you're strategic and you plan through things, you can get to and accomplish a certain goal and give it almost 100% of your time. That then opens you up to spending 100% on something else and then on something else. But it's all about strategizing and thinking it through and executing on those goals. You're going to have great goals. If you don't execute the plan, who cares? And observing whether or not what you're doing is getting the results that you intended. And if they're not, I wouldn't advocate changing goals right away, but maybe the way one executes the plan. I've been in the Cherry Hill Mall many, many, many times. My kids' pictures were taken there many, many times. Never once did I think I'd actually speak to the gentleman, that'd be you, that was so critical, along with all the other people that you mentioned earlier, all the people, the full-timers and the part-time people, the seasonal workers. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is I used to go, my son and I, every holiday season, when he turned 10, we would go to the Philadelphia area, and we would go by Rittenhouse Square and the park there, and we would go into, I won't mention their name, but a very famous steakhouse that was the restaurant for the hotel.
Right.
That you are also, or still are, or were a trustee of. Okay. So I wanted to mention that to you also. A lot of good memories there, not only with him, but other people that I would go there. We would go there, at least twice a month. And I got to know all the wait staff and, the bartender and bartenders that worked there. We were all on pretty much first name basis, and it was very disheartening when they closed their doors. There's other businesses there now, and I'm sure they're doing very, very well. But I haven't been down there candidly since after COVID. I haven't been down there.
We were original tenants. Actually, we had a condo and lived at the Rittenhouse for almost 35 years from the day it was built, when we moved from Haddonfield, New Jersey to Center City. And that was a wonderful period of time.
Excellent French restaurant.
Yes.
In the hotel, and I would visit there with my son many times, and for some reason we became somewhat popular there. I really don't know. It was perhaps all him, I don't know. But on a number of occasions we ate inside the kitchen.
Yes. That was a wonderful experience, eating in the kitchen.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I don't know how that came to be, but we sat in there a number of times.
Yeah, Laura and I often had that opportunity.
Yeah, a totally different perspective.
Yes.
And there were some other nice establishments there, Michelin star restaurants. One in particular that closed its doors. I would say probably like 10 years ago or so. Very high end, very what's the word? Proper. The one we're talking about, it was very proper, but it had a little bit of flair to it, a little bit more accommodating from a standpoint of, laughing at a joke or telling a joke. The one that I'm talking about, and I'll mention it afterwards to you. You probably know what I'm talking about. It was a Michelin star restaurant, very proper. As soon as you walked in, there was no, yes sir, no ma'am, yes ma'am.
Yes.
So that's just a changing landscape. But the important things for me are that regardless of where we're eating, regardless of what we're wearing, regardless of what music, when you walked in here, I was playing 60s music, because I just love 60s music. 70s is okay too, but 60s. And the thing is, my children also appreciate 60s music and 70s music. And my children also appreciate old movies, black and white. For me, there's an art in black and white. And I don't know how you feel about it as a photographer, but black and white, you create shadows, you create an emotion with black and white that you can't necessarily with color. And so they're pretty well versed on some of the classics, and the great performers, the 50s and 60s, back when they worked for the studios. And the reason I bring this up is that no matter how much change takes place, I think we can still stay anchored, in what's important, Whatever your definition of success is, having goals to figure out how to get there, changing your approach. And, when you're successful, and most people will be, if they stay disciplined to the plan, they can also make contributions to society. I think sometimes, as I said earlier, and I want to be this is not a political statement, this is the general statement, we think we have to choose one or the other. And that's not the case.
No, it's not. No.
You have to have money to make things happen. And also when you are in that type of a position, you can also many times influence leadership roles in these organizations and demonstrate the gratitude that you want to somehow return, either through public service and making contributions to these organizations. So that was what my AI subconscious, you see, so people can see they actually scribbled these down. So my penmanship is not the best at 6 a.m. I always ask my guests or to have the last word or paragraph or whatever. So in light of, Alan, what we were talking about today, you want to offer any words of encouragement for the viewers?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. help me.
Encouragement to, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Let me just do it this way, make it easier. After our chat, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I hope you did, do you think that there's something that you'd like to summarize our conversation with?
Yes. I said earlier I had a great run. I started as the youngest son of a family that was really depressed. And as I look back now over my 94 years, I'm satisfied that I accomplished what I wanted to do. I have now provided for my wife and myself, for our children and their futures. And I feel content that I've done it all. My community work gives me great sense of satisfaction because I influenced a lot of improvements and changes in organizations that materially benefited their performance, and I feel that I've done it all, and I'm satisfied with my life and my position, and I'm enjoying these senior years with Laura with a sense of contentment.
Wow, that's a great summary. And when people watch this, you know, I said I was going to let you have the last word, so I apologize. A lot of my neighbors, you know, we're always talking, and I had lunch with one of them, and you know, he's a successful businessman. Passed on the business. It's a family business, which is a nice thing to see. And you know, we're always chatting about what the newest elixir is out there. You know, what's the new thing Amazon is selling? You know, my father passed away when he was 91, and while he was in his 80s, the hype was, you know, grape juice. I went into his house one time, and there were like 10, 20 gallons. Huge bottles of grapefruit juice lying on the ground. I said, "What the heck are you going to do with this?" "Oh, aren't you paying attention? It's grape juice." Now there's something called brain honey that's out there.
Right.
Okay, you know, all these things. It's every 3 to 6 months there's a new wonder drug. If the people watch this, Alan, they'll probably want me to have you back on again, because the way you summarized, not only the fact that you've lived a full life, a successful life, obviously a healthy life, and one that I would say most people would want to emulate in some fashion, but certainly from a standpoint of energy and contentment. I don't know that there's necessarily any wonder drug for that, but there is a philosophy behind that in most cases. There really is. And I'm sure many of them will want to have a whole episode circled around what you do, what you did, and how you did it to be able to give such an eloquent and heartfelt summary to expecting a longer life, because your level of energy and your contentment is what we as a human race, I think, still search for. The contentment piece is the most important component in my mind, you know, because there's a lot of discussion now about longevity versus happiness, as if those were mutually exclusive. You know, we seem to now live in a society where everything is this or that, not both. You're either for this or you're against this. Why? Well, maybe we can be for many things and come to a resolution that everyone or many of us are content with. But our own personal contentment, I think, is the same thing. So the argument today in all the bestsellers is, do you want to live terribly into your 90s, ridden with this and that, or do you want to just drink a bottle of wine every day and just make it to maybe 65? As if we have to choose those things, I would say that a lot of people drink the bottle of wine or drink bourbon or whatever they drink, 3-4 martinis, because they're not necessarily content. And I think a lot of people are going to want a sequel. I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No, we gave up vodka, realizing that it wasn't the best thing for us.
Okay.
And I think
was it last year you gave it up, or
last year? Yes.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
There's hope. Yeah. Thanks very much. I really appreciate it, and I'm happy that you still got the last word in, other than my thanking you for being on the show. This was a great episode. One I was actually, looking forward to having you on, and hope to have you back on sometime in the near future so we can expand a little bit on some of the things.
I thank you for the opportunity to share some of my background with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.